bottle of wine in a store can be an intimidating experience. Between all the beautiful labels, bottle shapes, and colors, where do you even begin? In this lesson, I'll hopefully give you some information and practical tips on how to choose wine and navigate a wine label with more confidence. We'll also look at the wine that is packaged in materials other than the glass bottle. We'll talk about the cork versus the screw cap, and at the end, we're going to taste some wine. I'd like to welcome you from all of us here at Shaw Academy. Here at Shaw, we aspire to equip you with the knowledge and tools you need to help you empower yourself and reach your dreams today. Welcome back to Lesson 2 of your Professional Diploma in Wine Appreciation. I hope Lesson 1 has left you feeling excited and inspired for your adventure into the world of wine. Today's lesson is all about the wine bottle. So, let's pop that cork and get started. My name is Julia Blaine. I'd like to kick off this lesson by congratulating you on taking the first step on this journey of discovery. And I'm very excited to be guiding you through the wonderful world of wine. So before we go on, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. I have a degree in viticulture and enology, and I have had the privilege of working 11 seasons in the wine industry, in the cellar as well as in the vineyards, both locally and internationally. A quote that I really love is one by Salvador Dali, and it reads as follows: "He who knows how to taste wine does not drink wine, but savors secrets." So I'm hoping that throughout this course, you too will learn to savor the secrets of wine. At the end of today's lesson, you should be more confident with interpreting the information on a wine label. You'll be able to explain the properties and benefits of cork and compare the traditional wine packaging to alternative options. Before we dive into the world of wine, allow me to take a moment to let you know that if you should have any questions, please feel free to have a chat with Morpheus. He's our resident AI bot. The cool thing about Morpheus is that the more you interact with him by asking questions, the smarter he will become. With that being said, should any odd answers appear, please let us know, and don't hesitate to rate your experience so that we can continue and improve. We really value your feedback and want to help you reach your goals and make your dreams come true. So if you have any further questions or queries, please feel free to reach out to us at support@shawacademy.com. Oh, and don't forget about your study buddy, Vino Veritas. Did you manage to spot him in lesson 1? Let us know on social media if you did. You can use the hashtag #SureWine. Today, little Vino is looking slightly different to what he did in lesson 1, so keep your eyes peeled. Before we learn to read novels, we start by learning our ABCs. So let's start at the very beginning. Like the old saying goes, we eat with our eyes first, and it's no different when it comes to wine. Standing in front of a great wall of wine on display can be very overwhelming. I'm going to introduce a few simple steps that will make the process of navigating your way around a wine shop a little less intimidating, and before you know it, you'll be buying wine like a pro. We will approach this systematically with 4 key points. Firstly, who, what, where, and we'll take a look at some legal requirements. Bear in mind that every country has a specific way of labeling their wines and have special rules and laws. We'll get into these details when we do our world tour in Module 4. In this lesson, we're just going to establish the basics. It's always helpful to go into the wine store with a general idea of what you are in the mood for and engage with the shop assistants. Generally, they are unophiles like me and love talking about a wine and being a so-to-say matchmaker. We like to match you with the perfect wine for that moment. So let's get started with who. So quite simply put, this is where you find out who made the wine. This could be the winemaker, a wine estate, or a brand. So let's take a look at these terms with an example. The wine estate is the name of the farm or the estate that the winery is situated on. Then we get the brand or the company. Now, this could be an individual brand or an umbrella brand. Umbrella branding is a marketing practice that involves the use of a single brand name for the sale of two or more related products. So this could be one brand that owns more than one winery, sells wine under the same brand name. And then lastly, we get the winemaker. Some wine bottles will list on the back who the winemaker was, and this is the person who made the wine. So why does this matter? Well, it matters because different producers have their own personality and styles. Once you start noticing wines that you like that are maybe made by one producer, this can guide you into exploring more wines in that product range, or wines made by the same umbrella brand or by the same winemaker. A pro tip here is to engage with the shop assistant. Do some name dropping and see if they can point you in the direction of a wine in a similar style to the one that you've previously enjoyed. Think about the wine that you had after the first lesson. Can you remember who made the wine? Was it a brand or an estate? Or did the bottle actually feature the name of the winemaker? This is where your wine journal really comes in handy because you can refer to your notes and see what you liked. If you don't have a wine journal, remember to have a look at the bonus content that we have available, because here at Shaw Academy, we have designed a wine journal especially for you. So on that note, here's a little reminder where you can find all of your course materials. If you click on the resources tab on your homepage, you'll find all your course materials. So in these course materials, you'll find things like your summary notes and slides to this lesson, which you can review at your leisure if you want to catch up on the content or keep them at hand to refer back to in the future. You'll also have access to all the bonus material, like the wine journal that I've just mentioned, as well as a flavor and aroma wheel, which comes really in handy and is a lot of fun to use when you do your wine tastings. I've also designed a wine tasting mat for you that is a lot of fun to use. These are just a few things that you will have access to, so I really encourage you to go have a look. Throughout this course, I will do my best to equip you with the tools that you need for success, but it is up to you to use them. Did you know that in some countries, a wine can only be labeled as an estate wine if the grapes were grown, the wine was made and bottled on the specified estate? So once we've gained all the information about who made the wine, it's time to look at what the wine is all about. This refers to information that you can find on the bottle that gives us clues as to what to expect inside. So helpful clues to look out for are things like the wine's description that can give you an indication of the style of wine. You might have noticed that many bottles of wine will have a description on the back label giving you an introduction. A wine's description can be poetic and creative, like the Beau Constantia Syrah called Stella. The wine description reads, "The nose is most enticing with upfront notes of fynbos flora, ripe black cherries and petrichor, seasoned with the perfect amount of white pepper. It's quite spicy but has a clean red berry perfume that can be attributed to the long, perfect growing season of 2017. It is full-bodied and packed with ripe, textured grape tannins that were extracted during the hands-off, whole bunch natural fermentation, while the finish is long and decadent with a beautifully preserved natural acidity." Or it could be as simple as, "This wine is made from grapes." A wine label can also tell you whether the wine is a single varietal or a blend of different varietals. The year of the wine or the vintage will also be stated on the label, and then you can find other information like whether the wine was matured in oak barrels or not, or any other winemaking techniques. Have you ever noticed that some bottles don't have the vintage listed, but instead the letters N/V? This is very common in sparkling wines. So N/V stands for non-vintage, and it means that the contents of the bottle is a blend of wine that was made in different years. So now that we've covered the who and the what, it's time to learn about where the grapes come from. Where the grapes are grown will significantly influence the wine style. We previously touched on the French term terroir in lesson 1. To recap quickly, terroir is what makes the wine taste the way that it does. It's a platform for the wine to express its traits and style. The same grape varietal that's grown in different terroirs will taste different while still displaying the same golden thread of its personality. In general, wines made from grapes that are grown in cooler climates tend to be fresher with a higher acidity, lower alcohol, and a lighter body. And wine made from grapes grown in warmer climates tend to be richer with a higher alcohol and are fuller bodied. As you start to develop your palate and expand your sensory memory bank, you will start to notice that wine made from the same grape varietal will differ in style depending on the origin of the grapes. Let us compare cool climates with warm climates and use Sauvignon Blanc as an example. Now, Sauvignon Blanc is a white grape varietal that originated in Bordeaux, France, and is planted in many wine regions across the world. This grape varietal is a great expresser of its terroir, and depending on the climate, the flavor profile can range from green and grassy to sweetly tropical. A cooler climate Sauvignon Blanc from, let's say, New Zealand could express characteristics of green apple, freshly cut grass, and asparagus. Whereas a Sauvignon Blanc from a warmer climate, let's say South Africa for example, could express characters of gooseberry, pineapple, and passion fruit. Here you can see wine made from the same type of grape, grown in different climates, and influenced by different terroirs will differ stylistically. Being mindful of the wines that you enjoy, you might learn that your palate tends to lean more toward cool climate wine styles or warm climate wine styles, or both, depending on the mood. It's important to understand that wine is something that is shaped by nature and is dependent on the influences of climate. Wine continues to age and evolve once it's bottled. With that being said, as we continue to taste different wines and expand our horizons in the world of wine, our palates also evolve. This means that what you liked yesterday might not be what you like today, and that's what makes wine so wonderful. There truly is something out there for everyone. Our last category that we're going to touch on is legal requirements. So we briefly introduced the elements of this in lesson 1 and how they can be helpful in selecting wine. The alcohol content on the label can give us an indication of the style of wine. We can expect a wine of 15% alcohol by volume to be big and ripe and full-bodied, whereas a wine with 12% alcohol by volume will be lighter and fresher. One is not better than the other, and it all comes down to personal preference and, most importantly, balance. So don't be deterred by a high alcohol content. I encourage you to explore a variety of wines so that you can build up your own sensory memory bank and find your personal preference. Whether the wine is sweet or dry also needs to be indicated on the wine label. In the world of wine, we assume that a wine is dry unless stated otherwise. By dry, we mean that virtually all the sugars have been metabolized by the yeast cells and the fermentation was completed, or in other words, went dry. Another thing you can look out for on a wine bottle in terms of legal requirements are your health warnings and guidelines. The cork or screw cap debate is one that is far from over. In this lesson, we'll take a look at both closure types, and I'll leave it up to you to do some taste tests and make your own conclusions on the matter. Before we venture into this debate, allow me to take a moment to tell you a little more of what you can expect from this course. So you've signed up to do a 16-week course with Shaw Academy. The course consists of 4 modules, and each module consists of 8 lessons. Module 1, we will lay the foundation and introduce you to the wonderful world of wine. Once the foundations are laid, we'll progress to Module 2, which is intermediate. In this module, we will take the journey from berry all the way into bottle. When Module 2 is complete, we'll step into the cellar for Module 3, which is advanced. We'll learn about the journey of wine beyond the bottle. And finally, we'll wrap up your course with a world tour in Module 4, where you will learn about the wonderful wines of the world. At the end of this journey, you will receive a professional diploma in wine appreciation. Who doesn't love the sound of a cork being pulled from a wine bottle? In Lesson 1, we learned that corks and glass bottles started being used in the 14th century, and although there was refinement and technological development, up until the 1960s, the classic cork and glass combo didn't really change much. The cork that seals the wine bottle comes from the bark of a cork oak tree. Cork oaks are in the same family as beech or chestnut trees commonly found in the United States, and 30% of the world's cork oak population can be found in Portugal. The cork oak is an incredibly spectacular and special tree. It has the ability to not only grow, but actually thrive in extremely difficult growing conditions with very little rain, extreme heat, and very poor soils. The bark from the cork oak tree is harvested in the spring and summer months by shaving pieces of bark off the sides of the tree, similarly to how a sheep is shorn. This may sound easy, but is actually a delicate procedure, and you have to really know what you are doing, or you risk damaging the tree beyond repair. On top of this, you need to be highly skilled in order to strip the cork off in one solid piece. Once the cork is harvested, it's taken to a factory where it is treated, cleaned, and shaped into the cylindrical stopper that we all know today. Did you know that when a typical cork tree is harvested, it will yield around 45 kilograms of bark? This is enough corks for about 4,000 wine bottles. But this number can vary quite a bit over a tree's long life. Cork is a very versatile material. It is heat, sound, and vibration resistant. This is why corks can be used to soundproof music studios or even as an insulator for rockets. Whether the harvesting of cork is sustainable or not is under debate, but some things that most people don't commonly know is that very few other trees are able to adapt and grow in soils that are almost incapable of supporting any other economically viable crop. These trees also actually prevent further erosion and degradation of the already barren microclimate found in Portugal. Cork oaks are sturdy, and they make very little demands of humans or the environment. The Portuguese government have put laws in place to protect these cork oaks. The laws state that it is forbidden to strip the bark of a cork tree more than every 9 years. This means the bark of the cork tree can be stripped a total of between 18 to 15 times in a lifespan of 150 to 200 years. Did you know that the first harvest of cork bark is once the tree is 27 years old? This cork can be used for commercial products, but only once the tree is 54 years old will the first wine closure be made. Who doesn't enjoy that snapping sound of a screw cap bottle being opened? Screw caps have been around for over 150 years. The mason jar is not only beloved by hipsters, but was a pivotal discovery for food preservation. The threaded screw top, patented by John Ladies Mason in 1858, made for much safer bacterial barrier for food preservation purposes. It was actually the French who considered the screw cap an appropriate closure for wine, and we have seen this type of closure grow exponentially since its first application to wine in 1964. Today, up to 90% of the wines in New Zealand are sealed with the screw cap closure. So the cork and the screw cap each have their pros and cons. Traditionally, a bottle that has a cork sealed is perceived to be classic and high quality. For many wine industry professionals like sommeliers, uncorking the bottle becomes an essential part of the theatre of classic wine service. All of us can admit that there is something exciting about uncorking a bottle and hearing that pop. Screw caps are viewed as modern, new technology, and the wines are unfortunately perceived as being lower quality. You might have heard a new word there. Let me take a moment to explain. A sommelier, or a wine steward, is a trained and knowledgeable wine professional who normally works in fine dining restaurants and specializes in all aspects of wine service as well as wine and food pairing. Becoming a sommelier is one of the many exciting careers that one can pursue in the wine industry. Let's quickly summarize what was demonstrated in that video. The 3 basic steps to uncorking a wine bottle are as follows. Firstly, remove the foil that covers the cork. Next, insert the corkscrew into the center of the cork. Twist in the corkscrew almost all the way. Latch the hinge onto the side of the bottle and pull upwards. As traditional and theatrical a cork may be, the humble cork carries a dark side. Cork taint, or TCA, is often described as a moldy or musty aroma. It has been associated with the smell of wet dog or wet newspaper that completely overpowers the pleasant aromas in wine. TCA is a common wine fault, and this really is a letdown when you're expecting to smell strawberries and cherries in your glass of wine. We'll go into the chemistry of this smelly compound later in this course, but for now, this is all you need to know. Cork taint is one of the main reasons why screw cap has got such a big standing. In a nutshell, no cork, no taint, and no corkscrew, no problem. At the end of the day, it's what's inside the bottle that matters. Have you ever been in a situation where you've waited all day to open that bottle of wine, only to realize you don't have a corkscrew? Well, do not fear, this is no problem. If you're feeling brave and you have a hiking boot nearby, you can try this method. Firstly, heat up the neck of the bottle with warm running water. Next, grab a hiking boot or a shoe that has a thick rubber sole. Now all you need is a sturdy wall. Place the wine bottle into the boot and repeatedly knock it consistently and perfectly perpendicular to the wall. After a good couple of bangs, the cork should start to come out. As soon as you can grip it, pull that sucker out, pour a glass, and enjoy. Next up, we're going to take a look at what alternative packaging is out there besides the classic glass bottle and cork. All this talk of wine bottles and opening wine has really got me excited for lesson 3, where we're going to learn all about how to properly pour wine and the theatre of wine service. When we think of wine, most of us visualize the classic glass wine bottle. Today, innovation in packaging design is determined by market shift, consumer demand, and a theme of growing importance, sustainability. According to research, the newest round of wine drinkers are less committed to the traditional glass bottle and are more open to trying alternative packaging designs. Naturally, the glass bottle will always have its place, but surely we can support packaging alternatives and support producers who are using alternatives in an effort to clean up the waste in the wine world. So let's take a look at what other options are out there. The classic bag-in-box, sometimes unfortunately referred to as the unloved child in the wine industry. No doubt most of us have encountered this beauty or beast before. The bag-in-box perhaps does not have the most positive association, but today it's definitely bringing sexy back. Due to the growing concern that consumers have for practical and environmentally friendly alternatives to glass bottles, bag-in-box wines are becoming more popular given their lower carbon footprint, recyclable packaging, and ability to stay fresher for longer. You can keep a bag-in-box wine in your fridge for up to 4 to 5 months. In the 1980s, increased incidence of cork taint led to some wineries to shift to screw caps and start experimenting with putting wine in cans. Wines that are made with the aim to be consumed within 1 year of production really did well in this new innovative packaging. Attractive designs, along with the fact that it's practical, easy to transport and recycle, made this an obvious choice for events like picnics or festivals. Growing in popularity in some wine bars and some restaurants that serve wine by the glass is wine on tap. Wine on tap is when wine has been put into a keg and is kept in a pressure line, similar to beer. This phenomenon has been picking up momentum and is believed to be more economical, more sustainable, and it ensures consistent quality of the wine that is served by the glass. Another huge advantage is that the consumer gets to sample a bigger variety of wines without having to purchase an entire bottle every time. You may think once the wine is in bottle and the bottle has been sealed, that's the end of your worries. But unfortunately, there are some issues that can occur to wine once it's been bottled. One of them is cork taint that we've already covered. The next is oxidation, or the wine can become cooked. When a wine is oxidized, it means that contamination was caused due to exposure to oxygen. This is the same chemical reaction that happens to an apple once you've taken a bite and left it out on the counter. After a while, it will start to turn brown. Now, in wine, oxidation causes the wine to lose its brightness, the color turns brown, and the flavor resembles something along the lines of vinegar or port. To bring this back to the cork or cap debate, wine bottles that are closed with a screw cap have virtually zero risk of becoming oxidized, whereas bottles that have been sealed with a cork do, as cork is a porous material. A cooked wine refers to a wine that is spoiled due to extended exposure to high heat. If you've ever left a bottle of wine in the back of your car in the middle of summer on a blazing hot day, you might know what I'm talking about. Exposure to heat can result in a cooked or jammy flavor in your wine, similar to flavors that you would expect in a red wine reduction sauce. Secondly, this exposure to heat could compromise the closure due to swelling, and therefore secondary oxidation can often happen. Global records taken over the last 35 years have clearly demonstrated that climate change is a major concern for society. Most countries have had recent experiences of record temperatures, heat waves, and wildfires. For these reasons and many more, we need to be mindful of the carbon footprint of wine. So, which part in the cycle from berry to bottle to consumer is the biggest problem? Well, studies in places like Australia have identified the main problem area for CO2 emissions in the wine industry being the transport and packaging of wine. This accounts for 68% of the wine industry's carbon footprint, whereas contributions from grape growing is 15% and winemaking is 17%. Glass bottles used in the wine industry require a lot of fossil fuel energy to manufacture, transport, and even to recycle. The shape of the wine bottle is also not the most efficient in terms of space and are heavy, which makes packaging and transport of wine less efficient. It's for these reasons that the global wine sector is reconsidering packaging, at least for the great majority of less expensive wine that is made for immediate consumption rather than aging in bottle. The environmental benefits are perhaps the most emotive argument for bag-in-box wines or wines in a can. There is a statistic that if all entry-level wines in the United States were put into bag-in-box instead of bottles, it would be equivalent of taking 400,000 cars off the road in terms of weight and energy expended. So, on that note, for this week's lesson challenge, I'd like you to try a local wine that's in alternative packaging. Take your time tasting this wine, take some notes, take pictures, and share your experience with us. Remember to use the hashtag #SureWine. Congratulations on completing your first 2 lessons of Module 1. After this lesson, you've unlocked the opportunity to complete your first assignment. This assignment will be testing you on the knowledge that you have gained in these first 2 lessons. This is where your summary notes and webinar slides will really come in handy, as revising the content will definitely help you prepare for these assignments. Good luck, I know you're going to ace it. Thank you for joining me for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed it and are still feeling really excited and inspired by the world of wine. I'm looking forward to seeing you all soon for Lesson 3. Lesson 1 and 2 are focused on introducing you to the world of wine. As we progress throughout the course, you will learn more about the grapevine and its life cycles, typical wine styles, winemaking techniques, and important wine regions of the world. I hope you're excited to taste new things and challenge yourself with each lesson to fully apply yourself with an open mind. For next week, we're going to learn about the dripless wine pour and the theater of wine service. That's a wrap for today. Cheers from me and all of us here at Shaw Academy, where we aim to enable you to sculpt your future your way.